7 minutes too. I try to wrap it up because you
okay, yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. Okay, good.
That's very. Is it all right? Okay. Listen, 5 minutes. Nice.
So you've been this independent assembly. Okay, well I guess you'll explain that in the interview.
Yeah, you can ask me that. What do you mean, and you could explain, you know. I guess we get some interesting topics as we go along here. Interesting points will come out.
Good afternoon. This afternoon, a view from an independent Seventh-day Adventist church and issues around how the Bible views rights and freedom. That's our focus this afternoon. It is coming away through the kind courtesy of the Grenada Cooperative Bank.
That's a book explaining our position as Seventh. That book explains our position as Seventh Adventists. You find our books on Republicanism, the essence of Republicanism, racism, human rights, freedom. Oh, so if I'm going to quote from these things, if you desire a copy of it, I can always
okay.
leave it for you.
I don't know how much we can go into them, but
no,
so
I will be able to.
We see.
Whatever things come to your mind about government that you may want to find out, whatever you want to find out what the Bible says about it, I'll be able to.
All right, thank you very much. Good afternoon. Welcome to Focus. Our guest this evening is, let me make sure I have the pronunciation right, Westmoreland von Bruggen.
Yes, sir.
And you're with the Independent Seventh-day Sabbath Adventist Church.
Yeah, Thusia SDA Sabbath Adventist
right.
Church.
So what's your title within the church?
Well, the church is Thusia SDA Sabbath Adventist Church. And we are an independent Seventh Adventist church.
So you're a pastor within the church?
Well, I'm one of the elders. Minister. Well, pastor, if you want to say that, it's part of the ministry performance.
Okay.
Yes.
And independent means?
It means we are not affiliated with the General Conference of Seventh Adventists. So the local Adventist church here, we have no affiliation with them, neither in Trinidad nor any part of the world. We are separate from them.
Okay.
We are independent of them.
You're not a breakaway fraction?
Well, if they want to call us breakaway, which they usually do, but we more say they break away.
I see.
Because we hold on to the original principles of Adventism. So they have fallen away from it.
They might say the same thing, that they hold on to the original
principle. So there will be a
conflict.
Not going to say a conflict, but there will always be, should I say,
Isn't that the problem with religion?
Well, really and truly, the religion is, yes, in one sense, because somebody has to leave the original path. And those who hold on to the original path remain the orthodox or fundamental people, though they may be small in number. So we are that. We are original Seventh Adventists, while we may not have all the big buildings and plenty of money like them. So that's the difference. But the fact is we are Seventh Adventists originally based upon history and doctrine.
All right. What's the essence of your message this afternoon?
Well, today we want to add a new perspective to what Thusia Seventh Adventist does. Because we recognize that in every society, people speak about the Bible and they say, well, believe in Jesus Christ and you'll be saved. You know, Jesus Christ hates wickedness, he hates thieving, he hates adultery. But the Bible has an answer for every social problem. And the problem in the world today, when a man is not converted, he's more concerned about politics. I mean, look right here in Grenada, in Trinidad, Grenada, St. Vincent. Everybody concerned about politics. What does the Bible have to say about government, its function, its role, society, rights and freedoms? The Bible sets a principle. And once we follow that, we will recognize God has, in his wisdom, has organized things in such a way that society could run properly, even though the person is not converted. There could be a just and equitable society.
All right.
And this is the trend.
So essentially, what are those principles saying? And it seems as if you're suggesting that we have not really stuck to those principles.
Right. The first thing we have to recognize that what God has done, he has given us the Bible, as the only document whereby you can get a revelation of his love.
Mhm.
But since God is dealing with unconverted people, if you can look at the scriptures, primarily the 10 Commandments, his law, from a secular point of view, it will give you principles that will allow human beings to live in harmony with one another. So the 10 Commandments say thou shalt not, thou shalt not, thou shalt not.
Mhm.
And we know it points against you doing wrong.
Right.
But in the book of Romans, we find a particular way God explains the scripture, and this is what is unique about what we have to contribute as Christians. In Romans chapter 13, verse there, I'm going to read quickly what the Bible says here. It says here, Romans 13, it says, let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there is no power except of God. Now, the power here is not speaking about religious power.
Mhm.
He's speaking about what they call civil authority.
Mhm.
So God is saying, therefore,
Civil authority or political power?
well,
One and the same?
civil authority
Mm.
redounds to political powers.
Okay.
Right. So I'm saying, therefore, whatever higher powers exist, which means civil authority, God is responsible for them existing.
Mhm.
But people say, you're sure? Yes. In the book of Daniel, God tells Nebuchadnezzar king, I set up kings and I take them down.
Mhm.
So God in his wisdom, he organizes things in his providence to determine who should go into power and reign. And he does that for the betterment of society.
Okay.
You see? So the Bible tells us when the wicked reign, the people what? Mourn.
Mhm.
But when the righteous reign, the people rejoice. He's not speaking about a righteous man as a converted man,
Mhm.
but a man who in society, in politics, who has justice, equity, and fairness in his mind. When he rules politically, the people feel comfortable and happy.
Mhm.
So what we have to understand, therefore, in the political syndrome of the world, there are men who have power and they are practicing injustice. And that is why people rebel in society.
But the model you're talking about there, that you're referring to the Bible, isn't that what exists now? Where God is giving power to slash the political structure slash the civil structure. Isn't this the model that exists in the Western world now?
But what model? Because the form of government is the issue now. So for example now, in the time of Israel, you had a king will reign. But God will tell the king, if you rule, be fair and just to the people.
Right.
Respect the rights of the people.
Mhm.
Okay? So this was going to quote from Matthew here.
Yeah, but even before you go on to that,
Yeah, go ahead.
in the structure that exists now, isn't that the spirit of the structure for the structure of government slash civil society? To be fair, isn't that the spirit of it now? Even though within that structure, one might say, individuals who hold power within the structure may not necessarily subscribe to that, or they might be guilty of not being fair. So there might be nepotism within that same structure. But the structure exists as one that's supposed to be fair, isn't it?
Right. So what you are saying there is true, because society today functions on certain principles, rights and freedoms.
Yeah.
But it is the abuse of those things that cause a problem in society. In every political system, anytime the rights of the people, three basic rights they have: the right to worship God, which God gave man, and no man gives that. You also have the right to private property, what you earn by your labor, and also the right to exist, your life.
Okay.
So based upon those three particular rights, everything in society functions.
So then the problem is so that you don't necessarily have a problem with the system that exists.
Well, only when they go against those three rights, primarily the first right. So we have nothing against governments per se, except when they in the political administration seeks to deviate from the preservation of the rights and freedoms of the people.
What I'm trying to establish here in terms of the thesis of what you're saying,
Right.
what goes against, what is the contradiction? Is the contradiction the system, or is the contradiction the individual within the system?
Well, two ways, because an individual could go against it, but it's based upon certain philosophies in his mind, what he has been trained. So the system of itself, for example, if you have a government like you have communism, that system of itself is wrong. Because fundamentally, it is going against the basic principles that God had set down. So the foundation I'm setting with you is this. One, God's wisdom says, okay, man has been created. Let every man live one with another. How? Respect each other's rights and freedoms. What rights? God says, first, since I am the true God, you must first respect your right to worship me. So I must respect the right of the Hindu or the Muslim or the Catholic he has a right to worship God however he wants. I am saying he's wrong, okay, based upon my understanding of the scripture. But God is saying, okay, let him worship however he wants to worship. Through that avenue, God could bring him to an opportunity to see what is right or wrong about his religion. But he has the freedom to religious worship. If you want to worship a dog, that's his right to worship. So the right to worship is an inalienable right which God has given all man, freedom to worship whatever he wants. So if a government comes into power now and says, look, you know what, in this government, no religious right, God is against that government immediately. Say, because you're taking away the avenue for the man to come to know who's the true and living God.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. So the political system must afford for people to have 3 basic rights. 1, your right to worship God. 2, your right to life. And 3, your right to private property. So any government that takes away your right to worship God is wrong. Then if he wants to take away your life, your right to exist, where because of their beliefs, they say, okay, people are not following us, shoot them down. You're taking away a man's right to exist. When the government is supposed to preserve your life, not take it away. And then more so private property, where they're going to confiscate your property now for the interest of the welfare of the state. God is saying, no way.
Okay.
That's wrong.
All right, stick up in there. We'll continue with this discussion. Our guest this evening, Westmore Vaughan Brogan of the Independent Seventh-day Adventist Church, and we take a break. Focus coming away through the kind courtesy of the Grenada Cooperative Bank. So, what else you want to say?
All right, I want to talk about, I will go more into it by quoting certain documents here. Right. I'm going to quote certain, I want to explain Republicanism. There are only 2 types of government.
Okay.
Republicanism and communism. So I'm going to quote, I'll quote that book as well. These are ongoing things. We know we have one little program here we run on Sundays, but we can't touch every last thing. So since you are a nice avenue to speak on secular issues, it would be nice to do that.
Thank you very much. Our guest this evening, Westmore Vaughan Brogan of the Seventh-day Adventist, Independent Adventist. We'll be talking about how Bible views rights and freedom. Pretty interesting views you're coming up with there. Let me just ask before we proceed. Do you find you have opposition to them?
Well, I think that...
or people express reservations about some of those views?
Not necessarily so. I think anyone who's rightly thinking will recognize this is true, this is very good.
Okay.
Except they want to go on to their anti-rights attitude, when they are, and they will not condone these principles.
Okay.
Generally, politicians who think incorrectly will say, well, that's right, but they may still have reservations because politically they want to do their own thing.
Okay, so this has broad consensus. It's pretty consistent across the board, you're saying?
So far, yes.
Right.
No.
In the Caribbean, though, what you see some of those perceived violations existing?
Yes, exactly so. Now, mind you, there are only 2 types of government. There is republicanism, and which preserves your rights, and there is anti-republicanism, which will be communism. Now, people will say, well, we have a democracy here. The word democracy is simply a political tool to use to get someone into power. Now, once the majority votes for a party, they go into power. That's democracy. The people vote for who they want. And once the person goes into power, well, the hell with the minority. So democracy is not really a political, not a means of governance. It's a means of getting into governance.
So you're saying it's a mechanism that allows us an individual to go into power.
Right. But once that ends now, what is the principles of governance that they use? This is where now your rights and freedoms comes in. And we are saying republicanism is one of the rights that
Even
they
before
use.
you go further into the rights, let me just backtrack to the democracy definition there.
Yeah.
Because on a wider scale, some may say, well, yes, democracy facilitates someone to get into power in terms of voting and all that procedure. But in democracy, also have some sort of freedom attached to it, freedom of commerce and enterprise and ideas, marketplace and development and that sort of thing.
Right.
Freedom of expression.
Right, but I'm saying that term where they use democracy to identify government is not the real thing to use.
Okay.
The real term to use is identify the principles of government. Democracy is not a principle of government.
Okay.
It's a mechanism, as I said.
So let's focus on the principle
Right,
of government.
so
You're saying there are two principles.
There are two. There is republicanism, and the only other one you will have will be communism. Whether you want to say political socialism, socialistic democracy, once your concept of government does not facilitate the rights of man, it is anti-republicanism. And in all our research, the only other political science or government that is anti the rights of man is communism. It is fundamentally that. It does not condone individual rights and freedoms. And the other one that really does it is republicanism. And of course, the American Constitution is foremost. I say the American Constitution, not always the administrative way of it. The American Constitution is the foremost in accepting the rights and freedoms of people. So America is it is the high point of what they call republicanism, and everybody's following that model. So I'm saying that is the principle we must understand first of all.
Okay.
That's the basis of government, republicanism, where the government in power administrates for the rights and the freedoms of the people.
Right.
So whether it is commerce, in your commerce you cannot do away with people's private property. You enhance people to get more private property, hence your welfare, hence your means of taxation. It is encouraging, not to destroy it.
Right.
So even though America is a Republican government, yet still they may increase the tax exorbitantly. And the middleman is getting the pinch, and the lower man, and they have their party fellas who they're giving their little tax break. That, while it is republicanism, it is anti-rights in its administration. And God is seeing that wrongfully. Hence in the Bible, James 5, God says, "Woe to you, rich man, for you take wages from the poor, and they cry, come unto me."
So you're saying republicanism structure of government is what we should subscribe to?
Exactly so. And in the Caribbean, that's what the model they're moving to. Trinidad is a republic. Okay, you have St. Vincent now trying to change their model, and there's real problems happening there right now.
Right.
Where you have Gonzalez, he doesn't want to put in the phrase inalienable rights. He doesn't want to put it that the rights of man are God ordained and inalienable. Why? He doesn't believe that God is the one responsible for man's rights, because he's communistic in his thinking.
Okay.
And our church in St. Vincent, we have a church there, and we also have, as Thusia SDA Adventists, we have what they call our rights body, called the Thusian Institute for Religious Liberty. That is an organization, like a watchdog, for any violation of rights and freedoms. We will
let me play devil's advocate here and tap your thinking on some of those things you've been presenting here.
Yeah.
So the republicanism model is what you subscribe it and say that we should, because one may argue and say, well, that model is one of the reasons why we have a lot of social problems in our society today. The promotion of commerce and the market economy model, with and all these rights for everybody. Everybody has rights, from the gay rights to the all sorts of rights, which is complicated and polluting our society to some extent. On the other hand, when you look at the socialist model, socialist/communist model, there's some other issues with that, because they may argue that the intention of that model is ultimately to sort of, well, we may not get to this egalitarian society, but the idea is to have fairness for everybody. So one may argue from that socialist model, the intention might be good.
Right, I understand. Well, you see, what I should say, this is why I said there are only 3 rights. Gay rights, that's what they call a provision made. It's not a right. What right does he have to play a woman? That's his values. That's not a right he's doing. Because what he's doing there is against me too, and I can speak against it. And the governments now are sanctioning that.
Right, but
so they are being immoral.
But the Republican model that you subscribe to is facilitating that
right.
right.
So this is what I told you. While in the administration they do injustice, the foundation I'm dealing with. And of course, men are corrupt. So while they give them a good model to follow, they, because of their wickedness of their own heart, they do it. What I can say is this. In America, yes, it's the model of republicanism, but a lot of administrations there, they are communist in their thinking.
Right.
Yes, they are communistic in their
because
thinking.
What I'm trying to look at is, you seem to be giving priority to one model of government.
Because
and
it
seems as though
substantiates.
both of them essentially have conundrums or problems or may facilitate problems. In the Republican model that you subscribe to, it seems as though that have a set of problems that is also promoting, whether you like it or not,
yes.
in the way it's administrated.
Right.
And now shifting over to the socialist model or the communist model, which you don't subscribe to, based on the argument, it seems as though that also has some problems. So what is the perfect model that we're trying to achieve here?
The point we are saying is all governments must fundamentally respect 3 basic rights. So while you may have a communist government, they will destroy the fabric of society by going against man's rights. You can't say you don't want religion. As Karl Marx says, religion is what? It's the opium of the people. It's not the opium of the people, it is the means that God has ordained for man to know what is truth. So you have to respect that. And while you have in some Republican governments, some people administrate and they go against that very same thing. So I'm saying, so while this is fundamentally true, I'm saying the problem we have in society is that men are not administrating according to the fundamental principles of the rights and freedoms of people.
So the problem is with the administration.
Right. Yeah, that's what the problem is. If they will follow what the Constitution says, like Congress shall make no law in against religion, follow that model. You understand? And if you believe in rights and freedoms of individuals and in the minority, follow that and don't do otherwise to please the so-called majority who may be financing you. So you're dealing with greed and compromise.
Alright, we're just about to wrap up time. I'll give you 15 seconds for final 15 seconds comments from you.
Okay, so what I can simply say that the God of the Bible in his wisdom has given us not just salvation, which is most important, but he has facilitated the whole world an avenue whereby society could love and live in harmony. If you and I could respect each other's rights and freedoms, don't steal my property, don't injure my life, and respect my convictions, if we respect that as human beings in a civil form, we'll have a better society.
Okay, thank you very much. Our guest this afternoon, Westmoreland Van Bruggen. He's an elder within the independent Seventh-day Adventist Church. That's Thusia Seventh-day Adventist.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much for dropping by. Thanks for your thoughts.
No problem.
Focus came your way to the kind courtesy of the Grenada Cooperative Bank.
Okay, was very nice. Alright, so I will leave something for you before I go back to Trinidad.
Oh, you're visiting?
Yeah, well, one of the local fellows from the church here. I'm one of the elders who visit ever so often.
Oh, okay.
When I come, I usually do programs.
I see.
Okay. So we'll meet again.
All right.
And we'll
Thanks for your thoughts, man.
No problem. It was nice having that avenue. Nice steady.